Howdy! I've got a handful of small theories I want to share with you in this magical mini medley. As you can see and hear, I have been poisoned, but I wanted to get this out before Chapter 5, and I might not have another chance, so bear with me. I've organized my theories into a handy numbered list, so let's begin. Love theory! If we take for granted that every instance of hyperlink blocked only replaces one word, which I do because if it doesn't mean something specific, it's a little meaningless. And it really seems important considering how much Spamton says it, how much weight is behind it when he does, and how one of the organics asks about it. The organics are students of the arcane, speaking of knowledge like lost where the forest would grow, the children followed the pointed tail. So I really think that hyperlink blocked must have some meaning. So what does it mean? I'll spare you from going over every utterance of the phrase, but the best fit for it is love. I believe Spamton never says it in any of his normal dialogue. He does say it in his Valentine's letter, which if you accept as evidence is a big hole in the theory. But it's only in one of his other hyperlinks and a file name, not as a regular word he uses in a sentence. And it could have been used just to not spoil what hyperlink blocked is. The letter is also tenuously canon. Later in this theory I will use something even more non-canon than that. But I think any out-of-game evidence should generally only be supporting evidence, and I don't think that the letter is strong enough to not continue with this theory. So, to continue, the hyperlink blocked equals love theory is already pretty popular, but most proponents of it believe that it's because love stands for level of violence, like from Undertale. But I think there's much more to it than that. Let me ask, how does Spamton possess the Neo body? He first has Chris get the empty disc, and then he transfers his hyperlink blocked into the disc. His entire being goes inside as this happens. It doesn't seem like that fits particularly well with level of violence. And what do we see in his Neo fight? Spamton's blue heart-shaped object comes out of the Neo body, which he is using as a vessel. Isn't that similar to how the player possesses Chris? We control them through a heart-shaped object. Spamton possesses the Neo body with his hyperlink blocked / love, and then we see his heart-shaped core. What if it's the same thing? My theory is that hyperlink blocked refers to love, and love can mean many things. It can be standard love, maybe even level of violence, but most importantly for now, the idea of a heart-shaped object. I mean, what do heart symbols represent typically? Love. What does Rao say about the capital red text heart and soul? He says it holds your will and compassion. Couldn't you say that's love? There's more to it than that. People have already theorized that the prophecy panel, love find its way to the girl, is referring to the player possessing Susie or Noelle, due to the illustration of the girl's silhouette with a heart-shaped object inside of it. So if the heart-shaped object was love, then it would definitely imply that that theory is true. Now, a lot of people have dismissed theories about this prophecy because of the Japanese translation, which says the girl finds out the true meaning of love. But couldn't that be directly saying that there's a meaning of love that isn't just plain old love? And I think it turning out to just be level of violence again would be a pretty limp reveal. I want to plainly state that I know merch isn't canon, but there's this flavor text for this one particularly important piece of merch that ever since I read, I haven't been able to take my mind off of it. There's this shirt. It's called the Important Persons shirt. It's listed on both the Undertale and the Deltarune pages, so it's meant to be merch for both games. For Deltarune, the important person is obviously Chris. I mean, just look at it. And for Undertale, I think it would be Kara's shirt. Although it does look a bit different, it's really the closest match. But here's what the description says. The pattern of a shirt worn by a beloved someone. Your love will become theirs, their love will become yours. For Undertale, the meaning is a little clear once you have a decent understanding of Kara. At the start of the game, Kara's essence, or whatever, becomes attached to you, and whatever kind of love you gain becomes their love in turn. In the pacifist route, that's a genuine love, and in the genocide route, it's level of violence. Pretty simple. It's not as clear in Deltarune, but it definitely could be similar. What if the heart-shaped object is the physical manifestation of your love becoming theirs and their love becoming yours? And you guide how that love takes form. whether you choose the compassionate love of making friends in the normal route or the twisted love of the weird route. If the heart-shaped object is supposed to be comprised of, in part, Chris's love, more than just some alien entity, it grants new meaning to every scene where Chris is in conflict with it. Chris keeping their love locked away, beating it, all towards the ends of a promise they made, most likely out of guilt. Darkness equals indetermination. I'm not 100% on the implications for this theory, but I had the idea for it a while back and I just needed to share it, so here we go. Darkness is indeterminate. You can't make anything out. It's both a curtain hiding the truth and something amorphous you can shape using light. Your power, your determination. It's all the same thing. You need light to shape the dark, like how Friend, the Knight, the Titan, and its spawn would be nothing but darkness without a white outline, and how ink only becomes determinate when shaped by someone's will onto paper. What do you need to make a dark fountain? Determination. When one is formed, before we see all the black outlined by white, we see just a flash of light. Why couldn't determination and light be the same thing? We save using a patch of sunlight that shouldn't be there. It looks just like determination save points from Undertale. I'm not saying it's one-to-one and that in Undertale determination is light, but that's a pretty strong connection between light and determination in Deltarune. To continue the connection, Friend is a clear parallel to Endogeny, an amalgamate made of determination, and the Root's leitmotif connected to Friend is nearly the same as Flowey's leitmotif, another being comprised of determination. Isn't this a visual and audio link between Friend and determination? If light is determinate and darkness is indeterminate, maybe negative darkness is determined indetermination. We know the heart-shaped object's power is light, plus it's the color red, and we see Susie open a dark fountain, and when she does, her eyes turn red. Queen also uses the word will to refer to determination. And remember, Rouse connects the heart-shaped object to will. So I think red is really connected to determination/light, which segues perfectly into our next theory, Rorange theory. What color is this? I asked multiple friends and all of them said orange. But when queried about Papyrus's color, they all said he was red. But this color was picked straight from Papyrus. Now I know colors are all made up or something like that and that orange is just a shade of red. But this right here is orange. And it's directly called red on this Spamton sweepstakes page. Now what I'm positing here is that Toby Fox thinks red or oranges are red and not orange. And that's okay because it helps with the actual meat of this theory. Also henceforth I shall be calling both red and orange Rorange. Are you familiar with the old Chapter 2 dark bulb theory? I heard it first from great YouTuber Half-Bred Chaos. It posited that each of the 5 dark bulbs in the Chapter 2 segment represented a character. Susie is the pink house, Noelle is the yellow sun, Rouse is the green wave, and Chris or Birdly is the blue bird. But there is one more shadow, a Rorange shoe. Let me ask you, since the new chapters, have any characters been associated with shoes? Yes, Des has a bunch of them in her room. The shoe could represent her, and her color could be Rorange. In the Dark World, every main character has a color associated with them, and their damage numbers use it. Like how Rousey has green damage numbers. But in Chapter 3, when the Knight slashes Tenna, the damage numbers are Rorange. Therefore, that's the Knight's Dark World color. You could even call them the Rorange Knight. There are 2 Lighteners you could associate with the color Rorange. Des, who famously has the legendary Rorange guitar and a shit ton of Rorange shoes, and Rudolph, who you could say is the Rorange-nosed reindeer. So this is pretty good evidence for both of them as Knight candidates. Now, if Des is Rorange, I want to investigate 2 other Rorange characters we know about. Sham and Eram. Maybe them being Rorange is supposed to signify a connection between them and Des. Maybe Des was the one who made Sham, considering that she has sewing supplies in her room and Sham used to belong to Asriel. Maybe Asriel got rid of Sham because they reminded him of Des. I think that ERAM is orange because it's the shadow mantle being held by Friend. And the shadow mantle used to belong to Sham. That's it for that theory, but I have one tiny thing I just want to add on the end because it's not big enough for its own thing. People have already theorized that Friend is Sham's lost smile. And I think it's an interesting idea, but I think it's actually backwards. Friend already existed, and then later Darkner Sham was created, and the backstory of Friend being Sham's smile was retroactively created. I'm not a massive fan of this idea, but I've seen the Friend is Sham's smile thing before, and I just wanted to give my own spin on it. Friend link theory. I saw this Reddit post by user u/the_Undertaler hypothesizing that the true name of Friend is concatenate, as a parallel to endogyny, because the word concatenate means to link things together and the pointed tail is a bunch of circles chained together. But Friend being related to the idea of connection or being a link reminds me of The Legend of Zelda. I mentioned earlier briefly that I think ERAM and Friend are the same being, mostly because Friend's face shows up in rooms identical to a room where ERAM is speaking. The entire Mantle game is directly inspired by Legend of Zelda, and ERAM is probably inspired by the Nightmare boss from Link's Awakening. Now this might be crazy, but the origin of Link's name is that Link is the link between the player and the game. But what if Friend is like Gaster's Link? Also, Roots is heavily connected to Friend, and Roots are a bunch of disparate parts that are all connected to one source. I'm not saying Friend is definitely named Concatenate, but I think there's something to the idea of Friend being a connecting force. But it would also be cool if Friend or like a song connected to Friend was named Concatenate or Concatenate. Cosmology speculation. This one might be a little pointless, but I think it's interesting anyways. We know of 4 distinct realms in Deltarune. We'll go by order of appearance. Number 1 is the real world, as Phantom calls it, heaven. You start there and it's where you download the game. Number 2 is the depths. When you boot up the game, you're taken to the Goner Maker sequence with Mr. Wingdings Gaster himself. And there's a strange edited photo of water as the background. In the files it's called the depths. Jevil also references the depths, saying, "Hell's roar bubbles from the depths." It stands to reason if there's a heaven, there's a hell. And if Hell's roar comes from the depths, wouldn't that make it the depths roar, so they're the same thing? Number 3 is the light world. After getting booted out of the sequence by the second speaker, we wind up inside of Chris, in the light world. And then we fall inside the closet, taking us to number 4, the dark world. So my question is, what's the cosmology of these realms? How are they connected? How are they ordered? You could say they go from lightest to darkest, with heaven at the top and hell at the bottom, and the other 2 in the middle. This is the simplest explanation, but there's just one thing that irks me about this. If we start in heaven and then go to the depths, wouldn't we have to pass through the other 2 layers to get from heaven to the depths? And then during the Goner Maker sequence, we go from the depths to the light world without going through the dark world. You could easily hand-wave this away with any simple explanation, but I think it's grounds enough to explore other possibilities. One idea I like is that you start with the real world, then inside of that you have fiction, the depths, hell, and inside that you have the light world, and inside the light world you have the dark world, which is fiction and fiction and fiction. This idea solves my traversal problem, but let's explore other ideas anyway. Something interesting about the dark worlds is that darkners are actually closer to reality than lightners. They know about stuff like the UI, considering how Sham says how their name is pronounced, even though that makes no sense in conversation aloud. They know that somebody is reading their dialogue in a text box. And KK says, "I can't see" when the shot box covers his face. Rousey knows all about the A button, but Susie has no idea what that is. So maybe the orientation is like this: heaven, hell, dark world, light world, like a reverse gradient. I heard of this idea from a very, very interesting YouTube video made by YouTuber Howard Blast, which is linked in the description. Check it out. But this idea has the same problem as the light to dark approach. We seemingly go straight from the depths to the light world. Also, I wonder if any of these orientations would be upside down. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the world of Deltarune just seems upside down to me. So, another interesting cosmological configuration would be heaven, hell, and then light and dark worlds are side by side. There's the enigmatic prophecy panel gallery, a figure with a slashed head looking at two screens or paintings. And also friend is there in the negative space. I think the figure is Gaster. Who else could it be? So it could represent Gaster in the depths looking at the light world and the dark world side by side. But there are a couple different times where it's stated that the dark world is below the light world, so I don't know if this one would work out. One last possibility is that there's a heaven-hell dichotomy and a separate light world-dark world dichotomy that get connected through some means. I'm sure there's other ways you could arrange the cosmological structure, but those are the ones that popped into my mind. That's the last of the theories. Thanks for watching this video. I'm a little disappointed. I feel like a lot of it was surface level, but I feel like I can't explore it anymore on my own. If you have any ideas on anything I've talked about on this video, I'd love to hear more. In the future, I might make a larger video more focused on one of the ideas in this video, but I also might not make another Deltarune video until Chapter 5 comes out. I'm going on a trip and I'm not sure when I'm going to be back, but if the new chapter isn't released by then, I'll probably start working on a video about Star Wars and ring theory. Not a comprehensive overview, but like a exploration of some of the many rhymes in the saga. Again, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.